Hey guys, and welcome to this webinar called How I Cured My ED Naturally and Permanently, Recovered My Libido, and How I Today Perform Sexually Like I Did at My Peak, and how you can do the same whether you are 25 or 75. So welcome. Before we get started, let's take care of the technology piece. There should be a chat box to the right on your screen. So if you can hear me, and if you can see my screen, can you please give me a yes? Because it would be a shame if you can't hear or you can't see. So please give me a yes in the chat box if you can hear me and if you see the screen. Okay, Tarek says yes, thank you. I hope you other guys can see and hear me as well. Kieran says yes, thank you. Just hold on a second, I just want to make sure we get a few more yeses. So you can hear me and you can see me okay. Please give me a yes. All right, I see some more yeses coming in. That is very good. So we're good. We're all set technology-wise. So guys, I'm super excited about this because, we guys, we're really bad at talking about our sexual problems. So we typically don't talk to our friends about, oh, I couldn't get it up last night, or I have no sex drive. But girls, they talk about their vaginas all the time. They talk about their problems, their sex drive, their issues. And today is our opportunity to talk about this. And then second of all, I struggled with erectile dysfunction and a non-existent libido for many, many years. And I found a solution to my problems, and I'm really keen on teaching what I have learned. And I am on a mission to try to help as many men as I can overcome these problems. So today this is something I want to do today. And I think you'll learn a lot. And I think it'll be fun. And I also think that I honestly, genuinely think that this training has the power to transform your life. And we'll go pretty quick, so feel free to take notes if you want to. And feel also free to interact with me, write questions in the question box. If you have any comments, go ahead. I may also potentially offer this recording as a rerun at a later date. So if you see this recording at some point in the future, you're also very welcome on board. And a quick special announcement: if you stay on to the very end of the webinar, I have a special gift for you. I have a giveaway. I have basically a fruit drink that I make myself that increases or boosts what is called the nitric oxide production. I'll give this away at the end. It's a recipe with all the scientific research and everything. So if you stay on to the end, you'll get this as well. It's a free gift. Okay, let's get started. So here's what you will walk away with after this webinar. You will understand what causes erectile dysfunction and a poor libido. So you'll understand the underlying reasons for why it happens. You will also get actionable steps for how you can solve these problems and how you can overcome your ED and libido problems. So I will give you a tool set for how to live a more positive life. Now, there's one thing I want to say. There's typically two kinds of people on these trainings. And we have one kind of guy we call him the wanderer, and we have one kind of guy that's the action taker. So the wanderer is a guy that is not particularly focused or dedicated. He may have the webinar on in the background. He might be on social media, be on his phone. He may not engage or interact, does not implement, and he does not make progress in his life. So Tarek asks, what is libido? Libido is the same as sex drive. Then we have the other kind of person who is an action taker. An action taker knows that in order to learn, he needs to give full attention. He needs to give full attention to what's going on. He typically shuts off distractions, turns his mobile on silent. He interacts with the presentation and the presenter. He takes notes. He implements what he learns, and therefore he has a chance to progress and improve with his life. So I hope you guys are action takers. If you are a wanderer, you're more than welcome to stay on the webinar, but I think it'll be not a good use of your time. So if you're an action taker, I'll give you your thumbs up. Okay, so who is this training for? This training is for you if you struggle getting or keeping erections. So let's say you're not able to get erections in the first place when you're with your partner, or if you when you are with your partner, you are able to get erections, but you lose your erections. It's also for you if your sex drive is not what it used to be. If you had a strong sex drive before, but now you don't, and you want to get your sex drive back, it is certainly for you. It is for you if you want to stop taking pills to have sex. So if you currently have sex by the use of pharmaceutical pills, Viagra, Levitra, Cialis, whatever it may be, and you want to get off these pills, this is for you. And if you never want to have to worry about sex again, this is for you. Like when I struggled with erectile dysfunction, I worried so much. I was like, oh, am I going to be able to get it up tonight? What if I lose? What if I lose it when I have sex? And I would even worry when I had sex. I would be like, oh, am I losing my erection? Am I keeping it? What is going on? So if you never want to have to worry about sex again, this training is for you. And if you want your sexual confidence to increase and be sex high, it is also for you. And it is for you if you want somebody to show you how to fix your ED and your libido problems. And that's what I try to do. This training is not for you if you're looking for a quick fix to your ED or boost your libido, or if you're looking for a secret herb or elixir that will fix your sex life. Although I have 2 of these elixirs, if you want, that actually boosts your erections, but I don't want you to be in the course for these quick fixes. I want you to be here because you want to fix your problem from the ground up, and you want to be able to have sex whenever you want. It's also not for you if you're the kind of person that do not apply yourself and if you never take action. Okay, so who am I and why should you listen to me? Well, I'm the guy that cured my own ED naturally and permanently. It took me more than 10 years. I thought it was going to be a quick fix when it first happened, but it took me more than 10 years. And when I realized I had ED, I started educating myself. I started reading every article I could find, every long research report, books. I spoke to doctors. I watched videos. I spent countless hours in discussion forums, and I educated myself. And then I started experimenting with lifestyle changes, and I was able to find a way of overcoming my problems and functioning sexually again. And the way I did that was by rebalancing my body. We'll get into this in more detail later on. Then later I created a website called truelibido.com that you may or may not know. Here I basically give you my story, my experiences, and a solution to all of this. So there's a wealth of information there. So if you haven't been to True Libido before, you're more than welcome to go check it out. And I don't want to speak too highly of myself, but given that I lived with this for more than 10 years, and I went through the process that I went through and educated myself and experimented, I honestly think I know more than most doctors about this. And also the doctors I spoke to about erectile dysfunction weren't very helpful. I spoke to one doctor who said, it's in your head, it's psychological, you just got to get over it. And that wasn't very helpful. And I've been where you are now. If you suffer from ED or if you suffer from a low libido, I have been where you are now. And I want to help you. I really want to help you. And I've already helped thousands of other men, and I really want you to be next. So how did this all come about? How did it all start? So I want to tell you my story. I want to give you a little bit of background so you know who I am and where I'm coming from, and you can probably relate to a lot of the things in my story. And it all started in the beautiful city of New York City. I was 26 years old. My life was amazing. I had a good job. I made good money. I had friends. I was positive. I was upbeat about life. Everything was incredible. It was like a happy movie. It couldn't be any better. And for the last 3 weeks, I had gone out with this amazing, gorgeous girl. Well, at least in my opinion, she was super gorgeous. And on this day, I was going over to her place for the first time. She had invited me over. So I go on the subway. I take the subway to her neighborhood. I get off the subway. I walk over to her building. I take the elevator up. I ring the doorbell. The door opens. And before I could say much, she pulls me in by the t-shirt. And her tongue is already halfway down my throat. So we start making out. She pulls me further into the apartment. We're now in her kitchen making out. We're sitting on the kitchen table. She was studying something. There was papers and books and pens, whatever. They fell all to the floor. So we're now laying on the kitchen table making out. And it's like another scene from a feel-good movie. I take off her blouse. She takes off my t-shirt. She grabs my crotch. I am rock hard. I am ready to go. And she says, let's go to my bedroom. And I'm like, let's go. Let's do it. So I pick her up. I carry her to the bedroom. We're on her bed. We continue making out. I take off her skirt. She takes off my pants. We're now basically butt naked except for my socks. She grabs my crotch again, but this time I am flaccid. I'm it's just limp. It's not working, and I'm like, what is going on? This has never happened before. Why doesn't it want to play? I'm in bed with a flawless, gorgeous 20-year-old something amazing woman, and it doesn't want to play. Like, what could be more of a turn on than this? I just didn't get it. But this was not a girl to give up. So she tried everything. She tried to give life to it with her hands. She tried using her mouth. She tried rubbing her breasts against it. She tried rubbing her vagina against it. She tried one last time, but nothing worked. It was just lifeless. And it wasn't even semi-flaccid. It was just dead. It just was not interested. So here we were, laying on the bed, not even looking at each other. I felt like a complete failure, and I wish there was a hole in the ground I could just fall into it and be gone. But the worst part was how I felt about her, because I felt really bad about her. Just a few moments ago, she was the happiest woman in the world. She was smiley, she was laughing, she was full of passion, full of life. She wanted me, she wanted to get it on, and I just couldn't give it to her. I just couldn't make her happy. And now she was laying here in bed, miserable, maybe thinking there was something wrong with her. I mean, what do I know? What did I know? I hope it was a one-time event. I was certain it was a one-time event. But then we got together again, and the next time it happened again. The same thing happened again. I couldn't get it up, and then it happened again and again. And I just wasn't able to function sexually. Like, I was sexually dead. So question to you guys, has anyone had a similar experience? Have you all one day just all of a sudden just couldn't get it up anymore and just stopped working? So take a short break there, and you can please type in your comments if you want to. I'm just going to grab some water. All right, yes, couldn't get it up. Okay, so I'm not alone in having this experience. So there's other people as well. Okay, so here I was, and I was thinking, what shall I do now? I had a big problem. I wasn't able to get it up. I wasn't able to have sex at an age of 26. I was like, wow, I don't function sexually. But it didn't make any sense to me, because I was young and I was healthy, at least seemingly healthy. I thought I was healthy. So it just didn't make any sense to me. Why did I have to deal with this? And so I started educating myself, because I thought, well, what if I could figure out exactly how erectile dysfunction works and this libido problems? If I can understand all of it, then I could probably understand what causes these problems. And if I can understand what causes these problems, then I should probably be able to apply a solution. So I started educating myself. I went online. I started Googling for things. I started Googling how to cure erectile dysfunction. And I started reading. I started blog posts. I started reading basically whatever I could come over. I started going to discussion forums. I bought a book on the topic, and I was hoping for a quick fix. I thought this is gonna be an easy solution. And I was particularly interested in herbal supplements, because I thought, well, if I want to fix myself, that's probably an easy fix. So I began experimenting with herbal supplements. I changed my diet. I tried some exercises. I tried some of this, some of that, but I wasn't very systematic. I wasn't organized. I didn't keep score. I didn't keep a record of what I did. And I sometimes even forgot what I tried before. So in the end, I didn't really find anything that really worked. I didn't have any luck finding a solution. And this lasted for about 2-3 years. But even though I didn't find anything that really worked, I had 3 super interesting discoveries. One was on a hiking trip, and I'll tell you more about this hiking trip in a little bit. I went on a hiking trip in the mountains of Southern Europe for a week, and in the middle of the trip, I started getting erections, which was highly unusual. Interesting discovery. I had a food epiphany. For the longest time, I had a very poor diet, and then I met a wonderful woman. She was a vegetarian. And we started cooking a lot of food together, and I basically adopted her diet. And all of a sudden, when we started making out and I had been on this diet for a little bit, I started getting erections all of a sudden, which was also highly unusual. And then I had some luck with 3 supplements, with horny goat weed, with Tribulus terrestris, and L-arginine. They gave me a little bit of extra kick, but none of them were strong enough to solve my problems, but nonetheless, interesting discoveries. So I had been struggling with this for about, as I said, 2 years or so, and I hadn't found anything that, Tarek, asking what is epiphany? A discovery. So when I had an epiphany, a big discovery. So I was struggling with this. I was still in my 20s. I wasn't able to function sexually, and I was like, I need to function sexually again. So I started thinking, should I try Viagra? I'm like, no, I can't try that. That's not a good idea. And then I bounced this idea back and forth in my head for a few days. And then I went online. I went to a sketchy website. I bought some generic Viagra. It came in the mail, and I saw it came from India. And by the way, please never do this. Do not go to a sketchy website. Please do not buy generic Viagra from an untrusted source. You never know what's in this pill. But this is what I did. I was young and foolish. And then when they came, one day I took a pill, and later that evening, my girlfriend came over, and just by her sitting next to me in the sofa, I got this rock hard erection. I was like, wow, this thing is working. And then we proceeded to have sex, and it was amazing sex. I couldn't believe it. I had a super hard erection throughout the sex. It worked like a charm. And I was like, wow, this thing works. So question for you guys. Have you had a similar experience? You struggle with ED. You tried Viagra or Cialis or Levitra or any of these other pharmaceuticals, and hey, it worked for you. So anyone had that experience? I see Viagra, yes. Yes. Using them right now. Okay. So, moving on. I was taking these drugs for some time because I didn't find anything else that was able to help me. But there are 3 problems with drugs. Actually, there's probably way more than 3 problems. But to me, there are 3 key problems. So one key problem is that they only treat symptoms, not the underlying cause. So if you want to have sex tonight, you can probably take a Viagra pill and you could probably get an erection and function sexually. But if you want to have sex again in 2 days, you still have to do the same. And if you're going to have sex a week later, you still have to take a new pill. So you have to keep taking a pill every time you want to have sex, potentially for the rest of your life. In other words, the first pill you took didn't fix your problem. It just temporarily treats the symptoms. They don't treat the underlying problem. Another key problem with these drugs is that they're very imprecise, that they don't just, so speaking of Viagra, for instance, they don't just help you get an erection, but they impact many, many other systems in your body. So which caused you to have side effects. So speaking for myself, when I took these drugs, I had headaches. I got a blurred, funny vision, like things just looked distorted. I got a flushed red face as if I was super sunburned, and I often got a runny nose and a stuffy nose. I hated these side effects, by the way. And also, the third reason is that they're generally not necessary. So oftentimes we have a headache or we have a flu or whatever, and we take some kind of medication to help us out. But sometimes what we just need to do is to give our body time and or figure out what caused this problem in the first place so it doesn't happen again. And the same is often the case with drugs for erectile dysfunction. They're really not necessary. So I took these drugs for 2.5 years, something like this. And one day, this drug started working less well. So I took 12.5 milligrams of Viagra, and that typically always worked. But one day, it didn't really work that well anymore. I only got like a semi-flaccid erection. And so then I doubled the dose to 25 milligrams. So then this worked okay for a little while, but then I had the same problem. It started working less and less well. So then I had to double this to 50 milligrams. Then this worked, and then it didn't work. Then I doubled it to 100 milligrams, which is a large dose of Viagra. And that worked for a while, but after a while, this also tapered off. And I didn't dare to go to 200 milligrams because it's a lot. It's a lot. And I got the worst side effects with 100 milligrams. So At 100 milligrams, they just stopped working completely. So another question to you guys, have you had the same experience? Have you had the experience of taking pharmaceutical drugs and the effects just tapering off and then they're not being effective anymore? So if you have had that, please give me a yes in the chat box. I did with Viagra, okay. No, someone says no, that's fine. Yes, getting less and less effective. Kieran says yes. Okay, moving on. So here's the thing, like over these 2 years while I took these drugs, they made me complacent about finding a natural solution to my problem, because I didn't really find anything, and they worked fine. I mean, I hated the side effect, but at least they enabled me to have sex. So I became complacent. So, but here I was. Now, I wasn't able to have sex in the first place, naturally. And now the drugs didn't even work. So at this point, I had nothing to help me. I wasn't able to have sex. So this for me was the wake-up call. And it was time for a change. I needed to find a way to fix myself from the ground up. It was enough with the patches, enough with the easy fixes, enough with the drugs. I needed to find a sustainable solution. So for me, it was back to the drawing board. It was time to find this natural, sustainable solution to this. And I made it my number one priority in my life to find a solution. And I decided I was going to be painstakingly meticulous. I was going to be methodical. I was going to record everything. I was going to keep score. And I was going to do this. I was going to test and experiment and educate myself, and I was going to make this happen. So this is what I did. I made a map of every possible factor that I believed could have a positive impact on erectile functioning. So diet, exercise, sleep, meditation, massaging my testicles, whatever it may be. I made a map of absolutely every possible factor. And then I started experimenting with these factors. So, and I wanted to do this step by step. So I started with experimenting with diet. So, and I wanted to try various diets, and I wanted to give them each enough time for them to have an effect. So it wouldn't be a point in changing my diet for a week and then going to the next diet. I wanted to give it enough time. So for instance, I was vegan for 4 months. I was vegetarian. I tried the paleo. I tried many different diets. And I settled on a diet that was somewhere between vegan and paleo. So basically vegan, and I ate a little bit of meat and a little bit of fish. And I chose this diet because it gave me energy. It made me feel more alive, and I felt I responded better sexually. So, okay, I put a check now next to the diet, and I recorded how I felt. I made notes of my experiences, and then I moved on to the next step, which was sleep. So then I started experimenting with my sleep pattern. But while I did this, I maintained my diet. So when I started experimenting with sleep, I bought these like big plastic covers that I taped up on my windows, so I got no sunlight into my bedroom. So it was completely dark. I started sleeping with earplugs. I started going to bed at the same time every night. And I made sure that I had the right duvet or blanket, that I had a fan, whatever, so that I had the right temperature. And I tried very hard to get my 7 or 8 hours of good sleep. Okay, so I found my sleep patterns and check. So now I had a check to my diet. I maintained my diet. I have a check on sleep. I maintained my sleep. And then I moved on to the next factor. And I started experimenting with that. And so I did that with a number of factors. And bit by bit, as I kept experimenting with new factors, I found small wins. I could feel my body was improving. I could feel I got more energy. I felt more alive. I felt my body responded better sexually. I started having morning erections again. I started thinking more about sex. And then when I started thinking about sex, I would get semi-hard erections. And I felt I was on the cusp of a solution. And in the end, through all this experimenting and making all these changes, I found a solution. And as I said, it took me a whole decade of doing this, but I found a solution in the end. And one of the key things I learned from this process is the body is an incredibly sophisticated system. It's a system that consists of thousands, of hundreds of thousands, of millions of different parts that are all interrelated and they depend on each other. And the body is easily kicked out of balance. It doesn't take much for this system to get out of balance just by sleeping 4 hours a night or 5 hours a night instead of getting your 7 or 8 hours a night. This system will typically get kicked out of balance and start functioning suboptimally. So what I have discovered as well is that when my body is out of balance, when I don't sleep enough, for instance, the two of the first problems that show up is that I struggle getting erections and my sex drive just goes out the window. And my problem was that my body was typically always out of balance. There was typically always one or more factor that kicked my body out of balance. For instance, I worked a lot and I would stress a lot. So I would not get a lot of sleep and I would stress too much. And that was two factors that would keep my body out of balance. But at any given point throughout my life, there was typically at least one factor, but normally more, that kicked my body out of balance. So what is the solution? Or what was the solution? It was to get my body back in balance and then maintain this balance. As I explained when I did the experimentation, I maintain each prior action. But how? How do you do this? Or how did I do this? I did this by living an ultra healthy life. So I made certain lifestyle changes and then I maintained them. So this is how I overcame my erectile dysfunction. And you might think, oh, this sounds really hard, making all these changes and maintain them. But it's not really hard. Now it's part of my daily life. It's part of my routine. It's how I live my life. And not only that, but I crave these changes. So if I don't exercise enough, or if I don't have the diet that gives me all the energy that I want, then I start craving these changes. I crave the exercise. So not only is it part of my routine, but it's something I want. This is the life I want to live. So I should speak for myself only, after I felt how amazing it was having a body in balance, I would never go back to have a body out of balance, because the comparison is so pale. So what is my life like today? Well, my ED has been gone for more than 4 years, almost 5 years. Almost 5 years. And my sex drive is back to being super high at some point, to the point where it's almost a distraction. Like sometimes I'm chatting to a girl at a cafe or whatever, and I should keep my focus on her eyes and having an intellectual conversation, but my thoughts start drifting sometimes, and I think sexual thoughts. I can have sex when I want today. I don't need to take a pill and plan sex, an hour in advance or whatever in advance. And I have no worries whatsoever about sex. Like before, I used to worry so much. I was like, oh, my girlfriend is coming over tonight. I wonder if I'm going to work. I wonder if I'm going to be able to get it off. Like, what if I lose it? What if I don't make her happy, But I don't have these worries anymore. And so my sexual confidence is sky high. And I think I'm also happier than I've ever been. My body functions well. I'm healthy. I feel healthy. I feel happy. And I'm full of energy and lust for life. Like I wake up every morning and I'm like, yes, another day. And not only that, but by living this way, I'm super healthy. I'm now 41 years old, but I'm part of a running club and an exercise group, and I easily keep up with a 20-year-old. So I am super healthy. So imagine for a second for yourself. Imagine this. So if you struggle with erectile dysfunction, imagine if you could overcome your erectile dysfunction for good. Imagine if you could get your libido back and rocking and being so strong it's almost a distraction. And imagine if you could leave the pills behind for good, if you're taking pills to function sexually. And imagine if you can have sex when you want, and you don't have to plan it. And imagine if you never had to worry about sex again. And if you could always satisfy a woman or man, if you're into men. And then if you could have this confidence back, this sexual confidence, and also be super healthy. What would this do for your life? And what would you do to get this? Let's think about this for a second. What would this do for your life if you could start functioning this again? Like for me, it was, I think I speak for more than myself, but for me, functioning sexually is something super important to me. It's something of a very high priority. And for me to get this back in my life has been amazing. And I want to help you guys get to where I am. And I'm just thinking, I just want you to imagine, like, what could this do for your life if I could help you get there? So this is what Weldon says. He was a former student of mine, so I'm just going to read this quickly. He says, he was 52 from Arizona. He says, I was suddenly hit by ED at the age of 52. It was a terrible time as I had just met a wonderful younger woman, and I panicked for fears of losing her. I started looking for a solution, and with the help of True Libido, I realized I had a number of very manageable problems, including low vitamin D, inadequate sleep, severe short-term anxiety, and a dependence on adult material for fulfillment, which is porn. I changed my mindset and lifestyle, ate better, slept better, exercised better, quit porn, took several supplements, and tried to stress down. It's been 2 months since I made these changes, and I'm now able to get erections and have sex. Thank you for the incredible value you provided with True Libido. Okay, so question for you. Is there a voice in your head saying no? Because we're oftentimes skeptical by nature, and I am skeptical to new things. I don't want to buy into everything. But it's your voice in your head saying no to this. This sounds crazy. I don't believe in this. Now, there are many objections to anything in life, but I've heard many objections to this, to overcoming your erectile dysfunction naturally. And some people say, oh, well, if you have erectile dysfunction once, it means you have it forever. No, it's not necessarily like that. But here are some of the most common objections. Some people say, I'm too old. I'm 60 years old now. I don't function sexually. I did when I was 20 and 30, but now my life is more or less over. It doesn't matter anymore. I'm probably never going to be able to have sex again. And I'm saying, no, it doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't have to be like that. You can function sexually well into age. It's just a matter of getting your body back in balance. Some people says it takes too long. Now, it took me 10 years. That's pretty long. But I've taken students through a 10-week course, and some of my students have overcome their ED in less than 5 weeks. Even if you spend 10 weeks doing this, I wouldn't consider that very long. The other alternative is potentially to keep taking pharmaceutical drugs for the rest of your life. Some people say it requires too much work. Yes, it does require some work. It does require some changes, but listen, you're going to eat. So whether you eat a normal hamburger or whether you eat a vegetarian hamburger, it's still going to take roughly the same amount of time to purchase it, to cook it, and all of this. So it doesn't have to take that much time or work. Some people say, I don't have the time. I have family. I have friends. I have work. And my answer to this is, well, it's a matter of priority. Like, how badly do you want to function sexually, and how badly do you want to have that extra beer or whatever with your friends? So it's a matter of priority. How much do you want this? Some people say, well, my ED case is unique. It can't be fixed. That is actually true to some extent, because ED can be genetically determined. There are certain people that are predisposed to suffering from erectile dysfunction. But based on my experience and based on my interaction with my students, I would say that ED is by and large a lifestyle issue. I would say more than 90%, maybe 90%, 95% of ED cases are due to lifestyle. And a very small percentage is actually due to genetics or very unique. Okay, so I have to put this slide in here, and I have to tell you guys that there's no guarantee, because I cannot guarantee, of course, that you will be able to achieve my results. I would like to say that if you do this diligently, if you follow what I teach diligently, I would like to say I could probably almost guarantee it, but obviously I legally can't. And there is no guarantee that you will be able to cure your ED or increase your libido. No guarantee. But what I will do, I will share with you what has worked for me in detail, and you can choose what you do with this information. So you're still here. That's awesome. Now, I want to ask you guys a question before we go on, because I want to learn a little bit about you guys. I would love to understand, what is your biggest problem and what can I help you with? So is your problem that you can't get it up at all? Is it that it's inconsistent? You sometimes get it up, but sometimes not? Is it that you lose your erection during sex? Is it that you have no sex drive? So it would be fantastic to understand from you guys, what do you want help with? What is your biggest problem? Okay, I can't get it up. ED. I need to get better erections. Okay, so it looks like ED is the biggest problem. Okay. So This is what we'll cover in the second half of the presentation. So we have now gone through my story. You know me a little bit better. Here's what we'll cover in the second half. Part 1. Is the reason behind ED that our lives have changed so dramatically over the last 10,000 years, or even the last 100 years? Part 2. How I got rock-hard erections on a hiking trip in the mountains of Southern Europe. Part 3. What is always the direct reason for erectile dysfunction? Hint, it's red. And Part 4. My ridiculous experiment taking 40 times the recommended dosage of an herbal supplement. So, our lives are hardly to recognize compared to even 100 years ago. So my question is, do men suffer from ED today because our lives have changed so much? So did cavemen struggle with ED and a tepid libido? Or are these problems of the modern world? To try to find a solution to this, let's take a look at sex in the animal kingdom. Let's talk about recreational sex. So are there species that have recreational sex? And recreational sex refers to sex for fun. There are certain species that do, like dolphins do, bonobo monkeys. So there are certain species that have recreational sex, but they're very few. What about early human beings? Did they have recreational sex? Well, we don't know because we can't travel back in time. But we do think so based on certain erotic cave paintings and carvings of erotic figures. We also know from DNA tests that there was some interbreeding between subspecies of human beings. Like, for instance, if you took a DNA test today, there's a very good chance that you'll find a little bit of DNA from Neanderthals. So we think this interbreeding was due to recreational sex, but we don't know. So let's do a thought experiment. Let's say that it was only normal to have sex once a month. By the way, if you're a dog owner, you probably know that your dog is really only receptive to sex or mating certain times of year. Maybe it's depending on the race, but maybe it's twice a year, maybe it's once a year, maybe it's 3 times a year. But a dog, for instance, won't typically have sex every day or every week. There are certain periods while it has sex, and that's the case for most species. Many species only have sex once a year, or even less frequently. So if you talk about human beings, like, what is normal? What are we designed for? Are we designed to have sex every day? Or what are we designed for? We don't know. But let's do a thought experiment. Let's say that we are designed to have sex once a month, so one time every 30 days. Now, let's say you try to have sex every other day, but you're designed to have sex once every 30 days. Is it then any wonder why we struggle with ED and struggle functioning sexually? And maybe that is one of the reasons why we struggle, because we just do it too often. We try to do it too often, but we're not designed to do it this often. Here's another thing. Our lifespans have changed so dramatically. Like, if you just go back a few hundred years, we normally would live to 30 years old, 40 max. So if we lived to 30 years old, we were designed to reproduce in our teens and maybe our early 20s. And that's the age when we were supposed to function really well sexually. Today, we live into our 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s. So if our bodies haven't changed a whole lot biologically since way back then, is it any wonder why we function less and less well into our 50s and 60s and 70s and so on? It's just natural. And then there are many ways that our lives have changed. So let's talk about sleep, for instance. So we sleep a lot less today than we did before. Like, even compared to the 60s, we sleep about an hour less today than we did in our 60s. Sleep is super important because it's during sleep that you produce testosterone. So if you sleep 5 hours instead of 7 hours, your body's going to produce a lot less testosterone. And if you produce less testosterone, it's going to be very hard for you to function sexually. So do you sleep enough? Now, we also sit on our butts a lot today. You sit on the butt in the car, on the subway, when you eat, when you work. The average modern human being today sits on his or her butt for about 9 hours. So if we sleep for, say, 6 or 7 or 8 hours, there's not a lot of time left for exercise and other things. So do you exercise? There's also electronics and radiation everywhere. If you walk past the Starbucks or a cafe, there's a wireless network in there. At your workplace, there's probably a wireless network. If you work in a big building in a big city, that building is probably going to have several wireless networks and other forms of radiation. You probably have a mobile phone in your pocket pretty much all day long or close to you. these things all send out radiation, and we still don't know how bad or whether it's bad for you, but this radiation didn't exist, say, 200 years ago. We hardly also get any sunshine anymore, and I think we underestimate how important sunshine is, because we oftentimes get into a car on a public transport in the morning, we go to work, we spend all day at work, and then we leave work either when the sun is gone or when the sun is very low on the horizon, so we don't get much sunshine during the day. Now, sunshine is super important because it enables our bodies to produce vitamin D3. So what it does when ultraviolet B sun rays hit your skin, it enables your skin to convert cholesterol into vitamin D3 through a step that it also involves your liver and your kidneys. And this vitamin D3 is crucial because it's a building block of testosterone. So if you don't have enough sunshine, you're typically going to be vitamin D deficient, which means you're going to be testosterone deficient. So if you're testosterone deficient, it's going to be almost impossible to function sexually. So are you tanned? We also live in polluted cities with cars and vehicles and buildings, in some cases, burning oil to keep them warm. And so we breathe polluted air. Back in the days, a few hundred years ago, or 1,000 years ago, the only pollution there was probably the smoke from the campfire. So do you breathe fresh air? And then we live with a lot of stress today. There's a lot of pressure at work oftentimes. You might have a boss that's difficult to deal with. There might be deadlines. There might be interpolitics at work. Then there's a family. You got to pay bills. Like, we oftentimes go through stress on a daily basis. And the question is, do you stress? And then what about our food? It has changed so much, even over 100 years. Like, we have French fries, we have frozen pizza dinners, we have tofu, we have ice cream, we have Coca-Cola, we have so many new foods. And in many cases, this food contains herbicides and pesticides and preservatives and hormones and antibiotics, and in some cases even microplastic. And a lot of the food we eat is processed, and it's not the food we ate 1,000 years ago. It has changed so much. How is your diet? And then what about our social lives? Obviously, it's very important to have a good social life and be in mental balance for us to function well as human beings. And we typically live in big cities with thousands and millions of people, and we probably see, I don't know how many people on a daily basis, but thousands of people, but we typically don't talk to them or interact much with them. And many people are alone in big cities. So do you have healthy relationships? Oh, and then there's pornography. Pornography messes with your brain. So pornography makes, let's call it sex, it's virtual sex, but let's call it sex. It makes sex extremely accessible. So you just need a laptop, a tablet, a mobile phone, and you can access sex anywhere, anytime. And you can have whatever sex you want. You can have sex with a regular woman or a man. You can have a twosome, a threesome, an orgy. You can have sex with a black person, a white person, an Asian person. You can have sex with a babysitter. You can have with a grandma. There are no limits to what kind of virtual sex you can have. So what happens when you consume a lot of pornography is that the dopamine reward system in your brain goes nuts. It gets overloaded with dopamine, and then you get desensitized to sexual stimulation, which means that the dopamine signaling from your brain down to your spinal cord, down to your penis gets messed up. It stops functioning. So if you do this, if you watch porn frequently, and if you numb your brain with all this sexual stimulation, it gets almost impossible to function sexually with a real person. So my question is, are these changes to our lives responsible for erectile dysfunction happening to men? What do you think? Do you think that the way we live our lives, our lifestyle, do you think that could possibly be causing our sexual problems? And well, my answer is yes, but it's not only erectile dysfunction. We talk about depression, we talk about diabetes, we talk about many cancers, we talk about Alzheimer's. There are so many problems, dysfunctions, if you will, that are caused by a suboptimal lifestyle. And erectile dysfunction is just one of them. So, part 2, how I got rock hard erections on a hiking trip in the mountains of Southern Europe. Why on earth did this happen? So, I went on a 7-day hiking trip in the mountains of Southern Europe. We did about 20K of hiking every day. We were a group of like 25 people. And during this trip, I was outside, I was in the sun, I was breathing fresh air, I was getting my exercise and activity, I ate amazing food, I slept my 7 or 8 hours every night. I didn't stress, I was relaxing, I didn't have sex, I didn't really think about sex, I was just enjoying the company of good friends and amazing nature. And in the middle of the trip, after about 3 days, I started thinking a lot about sex. Like, why? I was like walking behind this woman and I was looking at her and I was fantasizing and I was thinking about sex. And like, why did this happen in the middle of the mountains? And then when I thought about sex, I would get erections. And this was highly unusual. First of all, it was highly unusual that I would think about sex in the first place, because I just wouldn't think much about sex in my daily life. But then thinking about sex and getting erections was highly unusual. It just never happened. But not only that, my erections were long lasting. When I got erections, they just they didn't fade away super quickly like they used to be. And I was like, why? Why did this happen? Why did my libido wake up in the mountains? The reason? I got my body back in balance. So even after just 3 or 4 days, I ate well, I slept well, I got fresh air, I didn't stress. And so I checked all the things to get my body back in balance. And so I worked well. So I want to ask you guys the question. Has anyone had a similar experience? Have you gone on a vacation, on a hiking trip? You've been gone for maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, and you just chilled, you're relaxed, and your sexual functions have come back to life. Anyone had the same experience? It says on a beach vacation, but not a whole lot of exercise. Okay, but you still relaxed and probably ate well. Yeah, sailing excursion for 2 weeks. Okay. So this happens. This when people get away from their daily life and get their bodies back in balance, that can work. And I got another yes, but not hiking, but vacationing. Tarek says, all right. Okay, so part 3. What is always the direct reason for erectile dysfunction? Always. Why does ED happen? Can anyone guess? Like, image should give you a hint, and the color is red. The answer is impaired blood flow. Because in order for you to get an erection, your penis needs to fill with blood. And if there's not enough blood that flows into your penis, you won't get an erection. It's like filling a balloon with air. If there's not enough air going into the balloon, it won't fill. And also the blood pressure needs to be maintained in order for the erection to last for long enough for you to finish intercourse. So if we need blood flow to make our penises erect, what then causes blood flow to slow down? One thing can be too much sexual stimulation, because I already explained how overconsumption of pornography can mess with the dopamine reward system in your brain, which causes the signaling from your brain down your spinal cord to your penis to not function the way it should. So if you don't have the signaling down to your penis that instructs what's called the smooth muscles in your penis to relax, so that blood can flow into your penis, if that signaling doesn't happen properly, then you won't have enough blood flow. What else? A poor diet. Like, a poor diet can cause poor blood flow in 2 ways. One is if you eat a lot of fat and sugar and bad stuff, you're basically going to get a thicker blood. So your blood is going to be full of fat, triglyceride, glucose. So it's going to flow less smoothly through your blood veins, and particularly in the blood vessels in your penis, because they're very, very narrow. So that slows down blood flow. Another reason why a poor diet can cause this is because if you eat a lot of fat, sugar, all these things, your body's going to produce a lot of cholesterol. This cholesterol is going to clog to the inside walls of your blood vessels, which is going to make the opening of the blood vessels get smaller and smaller. So the blood flow is going to be reduced. So a poor diet can cause your blood flow to slow down. Exercise, not enough exercise, can also do the same, because Well, when you do exercise, what happens is that more blood is rushing through your veins quicker. So if you already have stuff attached to the inner linings of your blood vessels, then this exercise is able to flush this away and clean it up. And the same it does with the composition of your blood. If you have too much glucose and triglycerides in your blood, exercise burns this away and enables your blood to get less thick and gets thinner, so it flows better. Exercise also enables your body to increase your testosterone production and also your dopamine production. So you have these things helping your sexual functions. Actually, exercise is positive in so many ways. It's one of the best things you can do for functioning sexually. Stress is one of the worst enemies for functioning sexually. So let's talk about stress for a second. So let's say you're out in the woods and you see a bear. A bear comes chasing after you. Now what happens in your body is your brain is putting in place a fight or flight mechanism, which is the same as stress. So what happens now is that your body reallocates resources to certain functions of your body to enable you to survive. So it gives you an extra energy burst to the big muscle groups of your body so that you can run away and then climb up a tree. It gives you a better vision for a minute. It gives you better hearing for a minute. It gives you all this extra energy for a little bit so you can run away from the danger and escape. This is stress. What it also does at the same time, when it reallocates resources. So it gives resources to the things that are useful for getting away from the danger, but it also takes away resources from other things. So typically what it also does, it shuts down your immune system, because what point is it to have a good immune system when you're running away from a bear? It's not particularly helpful. But it also shuts down your sexual functions. So when you stress, your body shuts down your sexual functions. So that was stress in the old days. It was helpful. It helped you escape an enemy or a dangerous animal and survive. Today, we stress every day at work or at home or wherever we are. And when we have consistent stress, our body is basically turning off the switch on the sexual functions. So therefore, we have a hard time functioning sexually. Not only that, but when we stress a lot, your body also produces a lot of the stress hormone called cortisol. And when you have a lot of cortisol in your blood, this crowds out testosterone. So with high levels of cortisol, you typically have lower levels of testosterone. And we already know that with low levels of testosterone, it is very hard to function sexually. So by the way, do you see some parallels now between the slides we're going through now and my hiking trip? It's like, it's the same thing. It's stress, it's exercise, it's eating well. So when we have these things checked and in balance, that's when we function well sexually. Now, sleep is another reason why inadequate sleep is another reason why we find it hard to function sexually, because as I mentioned earlier, it is when we sleep that our bodies produce testosterone. Testosterone is the primary male sex hormone, which is essential for functioning well sexually. It governs and controls and regulates everything sexually going on in your body. And if you don't have enough of this, if you're testosterone deficient, your sexual body just simply doesn't work well. Sunshine as well can cause your blood flow to slow down, because not enough sunshine means not enough vitamin D3, which means low testosterone, which means that the signaling system in your body that basically instructs your penis to get filled with blood doesn't work well anymore, because there's not enough of the signaling mechanism. So if you fail at any of these, you are in the danger zone of ED. And it's enough to just stress. If you stress enough, that's enough for your body to get out of balance and for you to not function sexually. So just one thing can cause your whole body to stop functioning sexually. Or if your diet is poor, that's enough. But obviously, if you struggle with more than one of these, if you struggle with two of them at the same time, then you are way more likely to struggle from erectile dysfunction or struggle with erectile dysfunction. So question to you guys, are you in the danger zone? Do you see that now, that there's a good chance that your erectile dysfunction is simply caused by the way you live your life? And if you realize this, then there might just be a solution to it. The solution might just be to live healthier. Michael says, yes, I'm in the danger zone. Highway to the Danger Zone. Wasn't that a song from Top Gun? I think so. Anyways, So, have I successfully convinced you now that you need to have your body in balance in order to function sexually? This is so important in order to get erections and have a sex drive. I hope I have successfully convinced you that this is critically important. Okay, next part. Part 4, my ridiculous experiment taking 40 times the recommended dosage of an herbal supplement. So I've tried all kinds of supplements and I experimented with this over years. I've tried tablets and capsules and tinctures and teas and loose powders, and I don't even remember what I've tried. And most of them were a waste of time and a waste of money. And I only had partial success with 3 of them. And I mentioned this initially. Tribulus terrestris and horny goatweed gave me roughly the same experience. And I would take a small dose. I would take 250 milligrams of this, as it said on the package or the bottle. And then what both of these did to me when I had sex is they might have helped me get erections a little bit easier, just a tiny bit. But what they did do for sure is they gave sex a little extra kick. I felt the sensation were a little bit stronger. I could feel, wow, sex is a little bit more intense. L-arginine I would take for a while. I would take 1.5 grams of L-arginine in the morning before I went to work. And it happened a couple of times when I was sitting on the bus on my way to work, minding my own business, looking out the window, and all of a sudden I would have a rock hard erection. So that happened a couple of times, and I think the reason for that was L-arginine. Now, so I had some success with some of these, but they were by no means able to help me with overcoming erectile dysfunction. So I had tried all this. I tried so many things. I hadn't found anything anything that worked, and I was on my verge of just giving up all these supplements altogether because I just thought it was a scam. But I wanted to give Tribulus a final go. I wanted to really try Tribulus because I had some success with it in the past. So I bought a very high quality Tribulus terrestris supplement, more or less directly from the manufacturer. It was extracted to 90% of what's called saponins. And I had it sitting on my kitchen counter, and I was thinking, so I'll take another 250 milligrams of this, and it's going to be a failure. Like, what's the point of this? You know what? I'm just going to go crazy. I'm just going to take a whole freaking tablespoon. So I took a whole tablespoon, and I actually took more than what you see in the picture. I took about 10 grams of this, and the recommended dosage was 250 milligrams. That's 40 times more than the recommended dose. So I took this. I took a tablespoon, I put it in a cup of water, I stirred it around, and I drank it, and I swear it's one of the most disgusting things I've ever tasted. It tasted horrible. I almost vomited when I drank it. It's so bitter. Anyways, I drank it. About an hour later, I sit down in the couch next to my girlfriend. We start chatting, we start making out, and as we start making out, I'm getting an erection, and I would typically never get an erection making out with her. It would just not really happen. And then we proceeded to have sex, and it was the most amazing sex I can ever remember. I was like, wow. Not only was I super hard during the whole intercourse, but I was like enormously hard. I was bigger than normal. But in addition to that, the sensations that I felt from having sex were incredibly amplified. Sex was taken to a whole new level. So instead of sex being on a scale from 0 to 10, all of a sudden I was at a 12. I was like, holy smokes, what just happened? I was like, I finally found something that worked. Like, some of these supplements finally worked. I was like, what an epiphany. And I could hardly believe it, because we had sex for a long time, and then I didn't come, and we laid next to each other, and I was like, I could easily start back up again just a few minutes later. And this was like, wow, what a discovery. I could hardly believe what had just happened. I was like, this just completely opened my eyes to supplements. And I finally realized that there was something to these supplements. It just had to do with basically the dosage and the quality of the supplements. So I want to ask you guys again, have you tried supplements and either they haven't worked and you kind of given up, or you've had a similar experience to me? You took supplements in a very large dosage and it actually gave you effects. So feel free to give me your experience in the comment box. Supplements not working for me. That's oftentimes the case. Most of them are a waste of time and a waste of money. Yes, a little bit with Tonkat. Yeah, Tonkat Ali is a good supplement. I like that. L-arginine works for me. Okay. Okay, cool. Moving on. Okay, so here's what we covered in the second half today. Part 1 is the reason behind ED that our lives have changed so much compared to what our lives were. Part 2, how I got rock hard erections on a hiking trip in the mountains. And part 3, what is always the direct reason for erectile dysfunction? It's blood flow. Part 4, my ridiculous experiment taking 40 times the recommended dosage of an herbal supplement. So this is what we covered now in the meat of the presentation. I hope your time has been well spent so far. We've spent an hour together. I hope this has been helpful to you. I really hope you have learned something. And I hope you feel that you feel you can cure your own erectile dysfunction now, because you now you know what is causing your erectile dysfunction in most cases. And hopefully you realize that you need to have a body in balance in order to function sexually. So hopefully you feel you can cure your ED and that you can restore your libido. And hopefully you also feel that, hey, it shouldn't be that hard. It should actually be quite easy. So I hope I've opened your eyes. And I hope you feel that, yeah, I think I can do this. Oh, and by the way, don't forget about the free gift at the end. We'll get to that shortly. So you now have 2 options. You can take what I've taught you today and take a stab at it yourself. You can try to eat better, exercise more, and do these things and get your body back in balance. There's a very good chance you should be able to do that, because now you have a good amount of knowledge. But what about this? What if I held your hand through the process, step by step, with easy to follow instructions, and took an active role in helping you to overcome your ED and libido problems? So if this is something that would be of value to you, if you want to hear more about this, then can I tell you about my 10-week step-by-step video course? Because I have designed a 10-week step-by-step course that aims at helping men, people like you, to overcome your erectile dysfunction in 10 weeks or less. Many of my students have gone through this. I see yes and yes, thank you. Thanks for the permission. Many of my students have gone through this, and they've been able to overcome their problems in less than 5 weeks. So here's what this course can do for you. It can help you cure your ED and recover your libido naturally and permanently. So no pills, no implants, nothing artificial. It's all based on natural means. And it aims at doing this in 10 weeks or less. So with each week, there's a new step that I recommend that you take on. So when you do this, you should see progress each week, and you should then get to a point where you can have sex when you want, so that you can satisfy your woman or your man. And what would this do for your life? What would this do for you if you can get to this point? So why have I created this course? Listen, I know the pains firsthand of suffering from this. I suffered from ED for more than a decade. It was terrible. My confidence got shattered. I felt like less of a man. It was not fun. I really want to help. As I said initially, I am on a mission. I want to try to help as many men as possible overcome these problems naturally and permanently, because I know it is possible. And I know there are millions of men out there struggling with this. It's estimated that, or it's my estimate that, based on the research I've done, that 20% of all men worldwide struggle with this. And as we get older, many times it's 50% of men over 50 struggle with this. And I know for a fact that this program can help many of you guys out there, because it's helped me and it's helped many of my students. And to the best of my knowledge, this is the most efficient way to fix these problems. And many times I get people writing me emails, and I get testimonials, and I get thank you letters and whatever. And here's just one from Luhar. He says, this is from Trustpilot, by the way. You can go to trustpilot.com and you can find these reviews. And it says, this is quite simply the best and most comprehensive resource on erectile problems. All the advice and information is backed up by scientific research and references. This is something I find very important. I always do this. While the author's personal experience are explained honestly and in tremendous detail, which enables you to take away what's relevant to you. They also quick to respond to queries and so on. So here are 3 things to really help you get success in whatever you want to do in life. And when you start from somewhere where you don't have a lot of knowledge, it's to get detailed yet complete and simplified training so you can get on the right track and get it done as soon as quickly. And also to have support, coaching, and accountability, because many times if you just do this by yourself on the side, whatever, you don't have the accountability, you don't have the support, you can't necessarily ask questions. So with this program, you also get support, coaching, and accountability, and you get shortcuts. And by shortcuts, I don't mean shortcuts literally, but I mean I will show you the exact ways that worked for me and that has worked for other men to cure ED and overcome libido problems. So you don't have to go down the rabbit holes that lead to nowhere. So you can cut out all these things and you can take the shortcut straight to the solution. So imagine for a second, imagine if you spent a few weeks following this course and you do it diligently, and then you start getting small wins. You start to have more morning erections. You start thinking more about sex. You start being more sexually charged. And then you get bigger wins, and you might, I don't know, you just get erections when you were sitting at work, working, looking at, a beautiful woman, whatever it may be. And then you might try to have sex without taking pharmaceutical drugs or whatever it is, just go the natural ways. And then you might function sexually. And then later on, you might start functioning sexually as you did in your teenage years. And then you might get your sex drive getting back so high again that it would almost be a distraction. So what would you give to obtain this? Like, if this was something that was obtainable to you, like, how far would you go to get this? Like, I spent 10 years of my life to get this. How far would you go? Well, I offered you this in 10 weeks or less, but what would you give up to obtain this? Like, how important is this to you? And this is when it's getting fun. Obviously, dealing with ED is not fun. It's terrible. It's miserable, but it is fun when you start seeing progress. It's fun when you start making these changes and you start functioning. You feel healthier. You feel you have more energy. You feel more sexually charged, and it becomes a game that you want to win. Now, I get a lot of questions like, does this work for me? Does it work? I'm old. Does it work for me? Yes, it works for all ages. It also works even if you haven't functioned sexually well for years and years. It can still, by getting your body back in balance, it can still help you. It can still enable you to function sexually. It works whether you are currently using pharmaceutical drugs or not. So even if you have used these drugs for many years, yes, it can still work. Can it work if I'm overweight? Yes, we just got to help getting you back in shape and lose some weight. Does it work if I have diabetes? Yes. If you have, speaking for diabetes type 2, I don't have much experience with diabetes type 1, but diabetes type 2 and erectile dysfunction is often caused by the same causes: an unhealthy lifestyle, bad diet, lack of exercise. So by going through my program, you can actually, in theory, overcome both of these conditions. Does it work if I smoke? Yes, but you should stop smoking because smokers are, if I remember correctly, 30% more likely to struggle with erectile dysfunction than non-smokers. Does it work if I consume large amounts of porn? Yes, we just gotta reduce or hopefully get you off the porn. So, what's in this course? So, section 1 of the course is so I tell you my first encounter with ED is basically the story that I went through in the beginning of the course, but in much, much more detail. So I tell you about the shock and disbelief that I went through and the disappointment, and then what should I do next? I wanted to find a quick fix. I started experimenting. I didn't find a solution, and I got to the wake-up call, and then started a systematic process where I started experimenting incredibly systematically, and then I found a solution, and then the changes I made to rebalance myself. You get all this entire story in full detail. You get the full key fundamentals. So I explained to you exactly what erectile dysfunction is. So what is it? How common is it? What are the common causes of erectile dysfunction? I explained libido to you. Why do we have it? What's the purpose of it? How does it work? How does it work in the brain? I explained 3 then chemicals that are incredibly important for functioning sexually. So I explained the dopamine. That's the chemical that sets things off in your brain, and it also enables you to get erections. I explained to you nitric oxide. This is a chemical that is incredibly important for getting and maintaining erections. And I explained testosterone, which is the male sexual hormone that is also incredibly important in order to function sexually. So you get the key fundamentals. You don't have to read this. You don't have to understand this, but I explain them to you in case you want them. And then I give you my key lessons from more than 10 years of experimenting. So I tell you about the key changes I made to my life, the principles that I now live by that enables me to get my body back in balance. And I explain to you exactly the things that work, and I don't spend time on the things that don't work. So I give you my key lessons that enable me to get my body back in balance. And then the final solution, of course, this is the step-by-step instructions that I give you of how to rebalance your body. So they're easy to follow, they're easy to implement. And by doing this, you will, if you're anything like me, rebalance your body. You will become healthier, and this will enable you to overcome erectile dysfunction and restore your sex drive. You also get 1 hour call with me. So we'll jump on the phone, we'll do a Skype or Zoom, we'll do a voice call. We'll spend 1 hour together. You can ask me any question you want. I'll be completely honest with you. I'll do my very best to help you with anything you want. Obviously, this is 100% confidentiality call. Nothing of this call will be revealed to anyone. So yeah, I'll let you know all my knowledge. By the way, so I'll tell you a little bit. I also have a 30-day money-back guarantee on my course. So meaning you can try out the course completely free for 30 days. But this call only comes into play after this 30-day money-back guarantee. So this is what's included in the course. You get my complete story with ED and the libido, valued at $199. You get the key fundamentals of sexual functions, also valued at $199. You get the key lessons from 10 years of experimenting, valued at $399. You get the final solution to erectile dysfunction and the weak libido, valued at $1,499. You get a 1 hour one-on-one call with me, valued at $199. So at a total value of $2,495. This is all you need to naturally and permanently solve your problems. It's all the tools and all the information you need. So if you take this to heart and apply it diligently, you should be able to overcome your problems. You should be free from ED and have a strong libido. So what is all this worth to you? Well, you won't have to pay $2,495. You won't even have to pay half of that, which would be $1,248. But I want to ask you a question. Would it be worth $1,248 to you? So what would it be worth to you to overcome your erectile dysfunction permanently? So if all this course did was to help you cure your ED, would it be worth $1,248? Now, let's say, what would it be worth to you to have such a strong sex drive that it would almost be a distraction to your life? Like you sit next to a girl and you're like, you can almost like not even have a normal conversation with because you think about sex. Like, what would it be worth to you to recover your sex drive? Would it be worth $1,248? And what would it be worth to you to never ever have to worry about sex again? So if all this course did was for you to never have to worry about sex again, your sex life would be solved. Would it be worth $1,248? Now, for me, had this program existed before, I would have said yes. When I struggled with ED, I would, yes, hell yeah. It would have been worth $1,248 in a heartbeat. Anyways, let's see what Roger says. It's a former student of mine. He says, I'm 65 years young. After 4 years with an ill wife and then 2 years alone, I decided to start dating again. I met a nice lady and soon found I had a problem. It wasn't working. Thank goodness the lady was very understanding. Being a fan of doing things the natural way, I started searching for a cure for my ED. Came across the True Libido site and was amazed at the knowledge and first-hand results. Read every word on the site and started putting what was recommended into action. I was amazed to find that I started to get erections again. Not super hard at first and maybe not as hard now as I would like, but erections again. It wasn't dead. The site is, well, he talks about the site. Anyways, so it worked for Roger. So listen, I want you to be next. I would love for you to be the next guy sending me an email like this. I want to help you. I want you to be the next success story. I want you to, again, function amazingly well sexually. And I want you to get your happy life back. But I won't charge $1,248 because I want to help you so much. Because I have two goals. As I've said, I think it's the third time I'm saying it on this webinar. I am on a mission to try to help as many men as possible out there overcome these problems. I want you to succeed. But in order to do this, I also need to make enough to sustain a high quality operation. Like I have quit my job. I have devoted myself to this 100%. So I don't have a normal job, but I still have to pay rent. I have to buy food. I have to survive. I have a developer working on this. I have a personal assistant working on this. I have a lot of expenses. I have expenses to this webinar. So I need to charge enough money to be able to produce to you guys a high quality operation, a high quality product. But I don't want to charge more than I have to, because I also want to try to help as many men as possible out there. So therefore, I will charge, or I am charging, a small fraction of the true value of the course. And by the way, you can also try out the course free and completely free for 30 days. So for one payment of $497 which is in pounds, 388 pounds, you get lifetime access to this. You get access to everything in the course. You get access to any future updates. You get access to any new information that is being put in the course in the future for a small payment of $497. So let's think about this for a second. If you're currently taking Viagra or Cialis or other drugs, and you have to keep paying these drugs, for how many weeks or months will $497 keep you going? I have no idea anymore. It's been years and years since I took or bought these drugs. I don't even know what they cost anymore. But if you could find a permanent solution that will forever cure yourself from erectile dysfunction and get your libido back, I mean, I honestly think that $497 is a very small payment. I have one question for you. If you do go ahead and buy this course, if you apply it diligently, and if you have success, if you're able to overcome erectile dysfunction, as you've already seen many of my other students have, or you get your libido back, I want to ask you, I want you to write me an email. I want you to say, hey, Jonathan, I'm so grateful for the course. Thank you so much. I applied it. I was able to get my sex drive back. I'm now able to have sex with my wife. Like, whatever it is, I would love for you to write me an email. So by the way, if you want this course, you find it at truelibido.com/course. So here's what I got. I got this course priced at $497 that enables you to overcome your erectile dysfunction in 10 weeks or less. And what this course will do for you is to help you get your life back, get your sexual functions back, get rid of erectile dysfunction, and get your libido back. So what I would like you to do is go to truelibido.com/course. Check it out. There's a page there with a lot more information. And if you think this would be of value to you, go ahead and purchase the course. And as I mentioned, I have a 30-day, 100% money-back guarantee. So there's no risk to you in getting this. So you have 30 days to go through the entire program, access all the bonuses. Well, there's some bonuses as well. We'll get to that in a second. And implement what I teach for free. Because I am 100% committed to your success. I want you to succeed. So if you're not happy for whatever reason, I don't even want your money. I will refund you 100% of the money, no questions asked. I even encourage you to, even if you're curious, just buy the course, try it out, use it for 30 days, even if you have the intention of using the 30-day money-back guarantee. Because if it could help you for 30 days, listen, then at least part of my goal has been fulfilled. All right. So, but as I alluded to, there's more, because I got bonuses for you. So I took a number of students through this program last year, and at the end, so we went through it week by week, and at the end of every week, we had a Q&A call. We had a call with the students. They could ask questions or whatever, so we went through things. And I have recordings of these calls. So you're going to get the call recordings from students that have already gone through the course. That's bonus 1. Bonus 2 is what I call shortcut 1. This is a fruit juice that will supercharge what is called your nitric oxide production, which will enable you to get, if you're anything like me, mind-blowing erections. I sometimes take this still because the erections I get are so incredible. So you get the recipe, exactly what I use. You get all the scientific research. And by the way, this is also the free gift. So you'll get this no matter what. So if you stay on till the end of the webinar, you will get this no matter what. Bonus 3, I have another shortcut. It's very similar to the other one. It's also a fruit drink to supercharge your erections, but through a different pathway. This stimulates something called hydrogen sulfide production. The other one stimulates the nitric oxide production. You get the recipe, you get the scientific research, and this also produces very, very, very good erections. It just gives you bad breath, by the way, because of what's in it. You get free use of True Libido. Well, you get that anyway. So True Libido is the website I have created. It includes my story in much greater detail than I went through today, all my experiences. You also get news and updates. So every week I update the website for news and updates that have happened in the space of libido, research, erectile dysfunction. So by now, there's probably more than 200 news articles that talk about all things related to erectile dysfunction. You learn the fundamentals, what I went through earlier. You get them in more detail. You also get 2 quick guides. One guide, how to overcome ED quickly, and how to boost your testosterone guide quickly. You also get a supplements guide. I tell you about all the supplements I have had luck with. So you get a detailed description of those. So all in all, you get almost 300 pages and blog posts of information. It's a wealth of information. It's all backed up by scientific research. Then also you get a link to the supplements that I've used. So I told you, I've tried so many supplements, and most of them are a waste of time and a waste of money. But I have found a number of supplements that work incredibly well for me, and I have given you links to where you can get these supplements. So, bonus recap, you get 11 recordings of weekly calls with prior students, valued at $199. You get shortcut 1, valued at $199. You get shortcut 2, valued at $199. You get access to True Libido, valued at $999, and you get the exact supplements that I've used and used successfully, valued at $199. So you get bonuses worth $1,795. So here's a recap of everything you get in the course. You get my complete story, you get the key fundamentals, my key lessons, the final solution, one-on-one call with me. You get 5 bonuses. It has a value of $4,290, and you get all of this for $497 because, as I said, I don't want to charge more for this than I have to. It's a one payment. You get lifetime access to the course. And as I said, I have one request, and that is if you go through this and it works for you, if you apply it to yourself, I would love to hear from you. And you find it at truelibido.com/course. And as I mentioned, we have the 30-day money-back guarantee. Oh, and I have one additional bonus. I have a private Facebook community. So, we started by saying, we men are so bad at talking to the men about our sexual problems. But this Facebook community is a place for you to do that. So you can interact with other men. You can ask questions. You can ask me questions. I also interact in the forum as well. And by the way, nobody from the outside of the community can see what goes on in the inside. So you get access to that as well. So this is everything you get. I'm not going to go through it all again. You see it. The stuff that's in the main course, all the bonuses. And I just want to say before we wrap up, I know what it's like. I know what it's like to struggle with erectile dysfunction and libido. I know what it's like to be in bed with a partner and just not getting it up and letting your partner down and making her feel or him feel less valued, or that he or she did something wrong. Or I know the frustrations. I know what it's like to worry about sex, and I thinking, am I going to get it up? Am I going to lose it? Is it going to work? I hate these worries, and I know what it's like to feel like less of a man, and that's why I have created all this. I really want to help you guys. Okay, this is what Mike says. Let's just read through this really quickly. I stumbled on this great website. So he talks about the website here. During a scary time, my 54th year. By the way, so you might see that most of my testimonials are from older men, but ED is something that affects all men. But I'm very glad to see that I'm able to help a lot of men in their 50s and also in their 60s. Just as a beautiful younger woman came into my life, I realized that I could not get an erection. The impotence lasted an entire month. This was something completely new and unexpected. As with most cases of ED, the causes were many: lack of sleep, anxiety, depression, low vitamin D, low potassium, low hemoglobin, and the long-term effects of an animal-based diet. I followed the course of True Libido solution, admittedly a bit out of order, and restored my erectile function. Yay. And then he says about the website, I love this website. I cannot believe how thorough it covers the major causes and treatments for ED in most men. There are several things I learned along the way. 1, keep a positive attitude. Negativity causes distress, which causes ED. 2, be patient. It takes time to get your mojo back, but it will come back. 3, go to a doctor first thing and get a blood test done to see if you are low on anything, especially vitamin D. Do testosterone raising exercises immediately. 5, lose weight and start getting enough sleep. Finally, take on a no refined sugar, no refined fats, plant-based diet. And of course, if you haven't quit smoking yet and got your alcohol under control, you're not serious about correcting your ED. Okay. So how do you purchase the course? So go to truelibido.com/course. This will take you to this page that you see on the right side. You click on the green button. Then you will see this checkout page. You put in your name, your email, then your credit or debit card, or your PayPal information, and you click enroll in the course, and that's it. You're inside. You have access. Now you can enjoy the course free for 30 days. So again, this is what you get. Total value of 4,290. Here's another guy, Steve, says, I have struggled with ED for a few years and I've tried several remedies to overcome my ED, including pharmaceutical drugs, PRP therapy, and shockwave treatment. However, True Libido has given me 2 discoveries that have helped my ED tremendously. 1, I learned that taking high quality supplements in large doses have enabled me to again get rock hard boners. 2, I realized how incredibly important exercise and being outdoors are for my body to function well. By taking supplements and being physically active, I've again been able to get boners and make love just like I did before. Thanks, True Libido. Okay, so here's the free gift that I promised you guys. This is the shortcut one. This is the juice to supercharge your nitric oxide production. So in this, you get the recipe, scientific research. And for me, this produces mind-blowing exercises to this day. And it also increases my sexual sensation. So you can go to this link and you'll get it. By the way, I'll send you guys an email after the course, and I'll include this link in the email so you have it. Okay, this is what you get. So if you have any last questions, you can message me. It's probably easier to message me at admin@truelibido.com, or you can just reply to any of the emails you've gotten throughout the course. So with that said, let's finish off with Q&A, guys. So if you have any questions you want to ask me, anything whatsoever, we'll cover them off here. I know we've been going on for an hour and 26 minutes. But for you guys that want to stay on and ask questions, I'll keep this going for as long as you want. I'm in no rush. So any questions you have, just put them in the question box. By the way, there's a couple of questions that typically always come up. So let me just answer these questions right away, just so we can get those covered off the bat so you don't have to ask them. So one question I often get at these webinars is like, I've tried to make a payment, but it failed. What do I do? Now, I know the payment functionality works if you go to truelibido.com/course, but sometimes what credit cards do, or debit cards, they put a block on the charge because whatever, it's something unusual, it's something they haven't seen before. It might be from a different country. So what you have to do then is you just got to call the number on the back of the card and say, hey, it was me trying to make this purchase. Can you unblock this charge? And then they will unblock it. Then you got to go back to truelibido.com/course and try to make the purchase again. Another question I often get is, do I only get access to week 1 in the first week? And do I have to wait to week 2 to get the access to week 2 and so forth? No, you get everything up front. So during your 30 days, you can access the entire course. So you get everything up front. And then a question I often get is, can I go faster than following this on a week-by-week basis? Can I do week like 1 and 2 and 3 in week 1? I was like, yes, you can. And maybe you'll get better results doing that. I mean, you probably would. But I have designed this course as a 10-week step-by-step process because I think it's more manageable. I think it's easier. And it's probably more effective for most people because it would be just too much to implement too many changes up front. But yes, you can if you want to. Okay, so let's look at some of the questions that have come in. What is your favorite supplement? I have quite a few, but I would say if you want to start with one, Tribulus terrestris is a good one to start with. It's an amazing herbal supplement. But that said, what I do when I take supplements, I typically take 4 at the same time. I take L-arginine, I take ZMA, I take pine bark, and then on top of this, I take an herbal supplement. So I typically take I take a combination of 4 supplements, and this gives me incredible results. But the herbal supplement would be the best herbal supplement, or a good one would be Tribulus terrestris. And if you just want to try it with one and you don't want to do the combination, you could try Tribulus terrestris. Okay, what other questions do we have? How is what you teach different from what other people teach? Good question. Well, I have to say I'm not aware of any other people teaching what I teach, like how to overcome this naturally and permanently. I know a lot of other websites and whatnot try to sell pills. You have, for instance, Go Roman and For Hims and whatever that enable you to get pharmaceutical drugs delivered to your door without a prescription. But I'm not really aware of anyone teaching this in this way that I do, and I don't know why. But by the way, what I teach is not new. It's not novel. It's not something I came up with. If you look at traditional Chinese medicine, if you look at Taoist sexual practices, if you look about Ayurveda, if you look at some of these Asian cultures, they've been practicing basically exactly what I say for thousands of years. So it's not like I came up with something new. This has been going on for basically thousands of years. How do I get my money back if I want to use the money back guarantee? Just send me an email. Send me an email at admin@truelibido.com, or you can send it to jonathanpcumberwell@truelibido.com. Just say, hey, I want my money back, and we'll take care of you. Nothing more than that. No need to fill out a form, nothing. Just send me an email. Are there any side effects or is there any danger of following this program? Well, what I teach is helping you guys get your body back in balance by living healthy, by eating healthy, by exercising. So all I teach is healthy principles. So in theory, no, I don't think there should be any side effects. Obviously, with the herbal supplements, there could potentially be side effects, but I think from the lifestyle changes, no. I mean, so what I try to do here is a holistic approach to help you overcome your sexual problems by getting your body back in balance. So by definition, there really shouldn't be any side effects. Okay, any other questions? I'll stay on for as long as you guys want. I am not in a rush, so if there are any other questions, send them in. Okay, I don't see any more questions. We have spent an hour and 32 minutes together, so maybe it's time to stop there. Thank you so much for your time, guys. I appreciate it. I hope it was of value to you guys. As I said, I encourage you to try out the course. And any questions, you send me an email. Ciao, ciao.